Everybody loves puppies. Look at them, aren't they cute? But not everybody loves your characters. Maybe because they're boring or cliche, or they behave in ways that just aren't believable. Maybe the challenges they face are too simplistic and too easy for them to overcome. There are a lot of reasons why your characters might not be inspiring the interest and confidence of your readers, and I'm guessing that's why you're here today. But don't worry, we're going to break this problem down and give you some practical tips on how to create better characters. So say goodbye to the puppies and let's dig into this. You've found the edge where I explore writing, world building, and how to use AI to enhance your creativity. If that sounds like your thing, you're in the right place. And today I'm going to tell you some simple ways to make your characters more engaging and more relatable to build solid emotional connections with your audience. And I'm going to tell you how to avoid common mistakes that alienate readers and undermine the emotional impact of your character's journey. So come on, let's go. First, let's talk about common mistakes writers make that turn readers off. Things that make readers dislike characters almost from the first page. One of the most insidious and pervasive reasons audiences hate characters is the power fantasy, also called Mary Sue characters. These are characters who are so overtly perfect, so overwhelmingly powerful, characters who lack any meaningful flaws and weaknesses, that they quickly become unrelatable and uninteresting. Transparent power fantasies where the author projects their own fears and fantasies onto the page instead of telling an engaging story. And for some reason, the last 5 to 7 years, this has become not only prevalent, but almost the dominant form of storytelling from a lot of studios. It's terrible. Think about Rey from the recent Star Wars trilogy. An orphan, abandoned by her parents, unwanted, unloved, uneducated, abused, which would actually make for a really interesting character, except from the very first scene, she instantly knows how to do things she couldn't possibly know how to do. She gets on board a starship, which she's probably never been on board before, instantly knows how to maintain it and pilot it at an expert level, better than Han Solo, who's been doing this his entire life. Really? Come on, give me a break. She's able to master the Force just because, without any training or practice. Again, something she's never done before and likely before leaving Tatooine had never even heard of before. And a character who suffers no ill effects from over a decade of poverty and abuse. They should have named her Mary Sue, because that's what she is. No wonder fans criticize her for being too powerful, too skilled, too perfect, without any explanation or struggle. Almost like she was written that way. And this makes her totally unrelatable, unbelievable, and rendered her journey utterly meaningless. No one cared what she did because she never came across as a real person with real struggles. Compare her to Luke from the original trilogy. He starts out weak, lacking confidence, lacking knowledge, lacking skill, and as a result, he's one of the most relatable characters in the franchise, and the audience genuinely cared about his journey as he became more confident, learned skills, became stronger. We followed his progression. He had a character arc. Rey has no character arc. She just gets up one day, boop, I'm perfect. It's stupid. To avoid creating Mary Sues, give your characters real challenges and flaws. Make them struggle. Make them fail. Show them grow. Any character who overcomes obstacles and learns from their mistakes will always be more compelling than one who breezes through every challenge without any effort. Another doozy are one-dimensional characters. Characters whose entire substance is a single trait, who lack any kind of depth or complexity. These flat, predictable, shallow apparitions fail to engage readers and rarely hold the reader's attention. Think about a character like Bella Swan from Twilight. She often gets criticized for being too one-dimensional. Her primary trait seems to be her obsession with Edward, with little else driving her character. What does she value? What is she afraid of? What does she think her purpose is in the world? Why does she react to the situation the way she does? We have no idea, because she's just a walking, talking bit of cardboard the author found on the floor one afternoon and crammed into a book. To avoid this, add layers to your characters. Give them depth, give them conflicting traits, or a backstory that explains why they are the way they are. Imagine if Bella had more interests or internal conflict beyond her relationship with Edward. Maybe she's struggling with a passion for music, or has a complicated family history that shapes her decisions. And that brings us to another character killer, which is a lack of motivation. Characters without clear goals or desires often drift through a story without purpose, leaving readers disconnected with nothing to care about, nothing to look forward to, nothing to worry about. Consider Jon Snow from later seasons of Game of Thrones. His motivations become increasingly unclear, and he often appears to be reacting to events rather than driving them, which can be frustrating for viewers. And in many episodes, he's nothing more than an afterthought. As events unfold, what drives him? What is he really trying to achieve and why? Instead, it seems like they just write him in every now and then to remind you that he's there. So, in your own writing, how can you avoid this? Ensure your characters have strong, clear motivations. Show the audience what your characters want, what they need, and show why they want it. Show how far they're willing to go to achieve it. Back to our example, earlier in the series, Jon's goal to protect the realm from the White Walkers was clear and compelling. Keeping motivations sharp and personal like this maintains a reader's investment in the character and the story. And understanding your character's motivations not only makes the story much easier to write, it gives the reader a stake in the outcome. If they know why a character is doing something, they will care far more than if the behavior seems random or purely in service of the plot. Finally, let's talk about unrealistic dialogue. Stilted or unnatural dialogue breaks the immersion and makes characters seem less real. And once this happens, the reader sees them as nothing but a name on the page, and soon they lose interest in the character and eventually the entire book. And you don't want that. Think of Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Attack of the Clones. His dialogue is not just bad, it's the modern definition of bad dialogue. So forced and unnatural, especially in romantic scenes, that viewers just can't stand it. This awful dialogue made it hard for audiences to connect with him. Part of this was poor casting, the wrong actor for the part who had no chemistry with the rest of the cast. But the real problem, the problem that could have easily been fixed, was the writing itself. Horrible, horrible dialogue that should have been fixed before any of those scenes were shot. People just don't talk like that, and everyone in the world but George Lucas seems to understand this. To avoid dialogue that turns off your readers, write dialogue that reflects how people actually speak. Use contractions, slang, varied sentence lengths. Make sure each character has a distinct voice that reflects their background and their personality. For example, Han Solo's casual, cocky speech contrasts sharply with Princess Leia's more formal tone, making their interactions more dynamic and believable, really pulling the reader in. And it's funny that this was written by the same jolly old fellow who so badly butchered Anakin's dialogue just a few decades later. Also, don't forget to tailor the dialogue to suit the tone of the scene. People won't monologue when their lives are in danger, so don't have your characters do that in the middle of a tense action scene. Likewise, when they're relaxed, people joke around and tend to be more thoughtful, so you don't want to write short, choppy sentences when your characters are relaxing with their friends in the Grand Library. Just think about the context, write the dialogue that fits that context. You can avoid these common pitfalls by ensuring your characters are more than wish-fulfilling power fantasies. Give them flaws, weaknesses, and limitations. Don't let them be one-dimensional caricatures. Give them depth and complexity rather than a single defining trait. Make sure they have clear motivations the readers understand and can root for, and make sure the characters talk like real people. This leads to far more engaging characters your readers won't hate right off the bat. But how can you go further? How can you move from your readers simply not hating your characters to characters readers actually care about? Well, the best way I've found this is to give your characters depth, distinct, multifaceted personalities that include inner conflicts which put them at odds with the world around them and the situations they face. There are a number of ways to do this, one of which is to give characters a well-developed backstory. Their history informs their actions and decisions and makes them feel real to your readers. Think about Walter White from Breaking Bad. His transformation from a mild-mannered teacher to a ruthless drug lord is rooted in his backstory of financial struggles and a terminal cancer diagnosis. These elements make his actions understandable, relatable, even when they're morally questionable. Create a backstory that shapes your character's present. What events have they experienced? What scars do they carry? For example, a character who grew up in a war-torn country might be deeply mistrustful or incredibly resilient, but it's this backstory that suspends the reader's disbelief and makes the character feel real to the reader. And the more you understand the backstory, the easier it will be for you to subtly weave in elements of it without dropping pages of prolonged exposition or unnecessary flashbacks, both of which slow down your story and can lose readers. Another aspect of depth is weakness and vulnerability. People are not perfect. They need both strengths and flaws, not only to be believable, but to be relatable. A perfect character feels unrealistic, a Mary Sue projecting the author's desires, and this kind of character quickly alienates the audience. And at the far end of the spectrum, a character who's too deeply flawed with no positive traits will seem unredeemable and won't connect to the audience. You need to find a balance, both for your protagonists and your antagonists. Consider Tony Stark from Iron Man. He's a genius inventor and a charismatic leader, but he's also arrogant and struggles with alcoholism. These flaws make his journey towards becoming a hero more engaging and make him more relatable. The audience can't relate to being a billionaire playboy, but most of them can relate to his flaws. Balance positive and negative traits. A character who is brave but reckless can create tension and growth opportunities. Maybe they need to learn caution to achieve their goals, making their arc more compelling. A character who starts weak and insecure and suffers to earn power and confidence is both more realistic and more relatable. And finally, to give a character real depth, they have to grow and change during the course of the story. They need to evolve. Otherwise, they start to feel stagnant and boring. Look at Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. His journey from a vengeful prince to a redeemed hero is marked by significant growth and change. This evolution keeps the audience invested in his story, and it builds tension because the audience doesn't know if he will complete the arc or give in to his anger and insecurity. Plan your character's development. How do they change from the beginning to the end of the story? What challenges force them to grow? For instance, a timid character might become a leader through a series of trials, making their arc satisfying and memorable. A weak character might learn important skills from a mentor, expand on those lessons through hard-won experience, and believably be ready for the challenge they face at the story's climax. Characters with depth draw in the audience. They feel more like real people, and their struggles and challenges give the audience a reason to care about them. You can create depth and a stronger emotional connection to your characters by giving them rich backstories, balancing their strengths and flaws, and ensuring they grow throughout the story. These elements make characters relatable, compelling, and unforgettable. How do you create depth in your characters? Any go-to tricks that have helped improve your writing? Let us know in the comments so we can learn from each other and craft unforgettable characters. But applying the following tips will create an even stronger bond between your characters and your audience. Do you ever talk to an ATM? Do you ever connect with one deeply? An ATM has a rich backstory. It has flaws and strengths. And over the course of your time with it, it will teeter ever closer to that sad moment when it runs out of cash. But you don't really connect with your ATM. You don't relate to it in any personal way. At least, I hope you don't, weirdo. Well, for readers, your characters are like an ATM. They've invested time in your story. When they visit the characters, they want to be rewarded. They want to have a connection. And characters who display genuine emotions provide just such a connection. Emotions make characters human and relatable. Think of Eleven from Stranger Things. Her struggles with loneliness, fear, and the desire for a normal life resonate with audiences, especially teens. These emotions make her more than just a superpowered girl. They make her relatable. Show your character's emotions through their actions and reactions. When a character's happy, they might laugh or smile. When they're sad, they might withdraw or cry. And you need to show this. When you plot out scenes and chapters, be sure to leave time for the character's emotional reactions. Be sure to show the aftermath of the conflict. Show how the characters handle unexpected changes in their fortunes. Let the reader spend a moment with the characters as they feel the effects of whatever just happened in the story. Another way to differentiate your characters from the corner ATM is by maintaining consistent character behavior. This helps readers understand and relate to your characters. Inconsistent behavior can confuse and alienate your audience, making them care less about the character and leading them to trust you less as an author. Consider Katniss Everdeen from The Hunger Games. Her protective nature toward her family and her survival instinct remains constant throughout the series. This consistency makes her actions believable and relatable, at least up until the moment she shoots the rebel leader. That was a heavy-handed because the plot demands it moment, but prior to that, her character and her values remain consistent, making her very relatable as a protagonist. Write your characters in such a way that their actions and their choices align with established traits and backstories. And if a character does something outside the personality that has been established for them, show why. Never let a character do something wildly out of character unless you can show the reader a clear reason for this seeming departure from their established traits. A character who is brave should not suddenly act cowardly without a compelling reason. A character who's cunning and devious should not fall for a simple ruse. Keeping your character's behavior consistent builds trust and empathy with the reader, and you want that. A reader who trusts the author and who connects deeply with your characters will not only finish the book, they'll come back for the next one. Another way to make characters more relatable is to develop complex relationships between the characters. This adds depth and makes them more convincing. Interactions with a varied cast reveal different facets of your characters' personalities. Just don't go too far with it, as most readers don't want an endless soap opera of mix and match relationships that get reshuffled every episode. This might work well for poorly written TV shows, but not many readers have the patience to put up with this in a book. Look at the complex relationships in Community. Yes, I know this example is ironic given what I just said, but I still think it works because Community does not fall into the category of poorly written TV shows. It's actually very well written. Here, each character has unique dynamics with the others, from Jeff's reluctant leadership and Annie's admiration of him to Abbott and Troy's close friendship. And through the series, the characters' relationships shift and grow, and the group dynamic changes as the individual relationships evolve. These relationships add layers to the characters and make them feel real. To write complex relationships, show how characters interact in various situations and capture the dynamics of the group. A character will act differently if their crush is in the scene versus if their angry uncle is in the scene. And if you tell me their crush is their angry uncle, I'm going to come over there and smack you. So use nuance and subtext to further reveal the dynamics of the relationships. A character might be supportive toward one friend, but competitive with another. This can be further complicated by factoring in how other characters view them and how the situation is unfolding around them, how it might inspire competition or demand cooperation, which will further highlight these traits and the differences between your characters. So those are some ways to make your characters relatable. Create emotional connections, maintain consistency in their behavior, and develop complex relationships among them. These strategies help readers see your characters as real people who they can understand and empathize with. Now for some practical tips to enhance your character development process. The bones, the framework needed to write relatable and memorable characters starts with the development and design of the characters. Early on, preferably before you ever write a single scene, you need to flesh out your characters, develop them from a vague idea to a person you understand and relate to, so that you can structure your story in a way that brings them to life and lets your readers get to know them as well as you do. Here's some ways to do that. A tried and true technique is to interview them. Sit them down, pull up a chair. If you're mean, shine a bright light in their face and start asking them questions. The questions can be standard templates that you use for all of your characters, or they can be tailored to specific characters. This interview technique helps you dive into their personalities, motivations, and backgrounds, and create some separation between creator and character. You don't want all your characters to think and act like you. You can find hundreds of character interview templates online. I suggest you try several, play with them, and start to build a list of questions you like to ask. The questions that challenge your characters and your imagination and force you to really understand who these people are, why they do what they do, and how they will handle the situations you're about to throw them into. Ask about their fears, their goals. Ask about relationships, present and past. Ask who hurt them. Ask what keeps them up at night. Questions like, what is your biggest regret? Or what do you value most? Can uncover important details about your character that will make your story richer and more believable and will engage better with your readers. And these interviews can reveal problems with your plot or outline where your characters behave in out-of-character ways that the readers will find disturbing and off-putting, things you should fix before ever letting a reader see them. Another tool is a character sheet, a simple form listing attributes and key details about a character. Using character sheets helps keep track of your character's details, ensuring consistency and helping you build depth. They act as a reference guide for their traits, history, and development. And character sheets are another one you can find hundreds of templates for. These typically include sections for physical appearance, personality traits, backstory, motivations, and key relationships. Look around and pick the things you like and build your own. It won't take long and it will help you to quickly flesh out and understand your characters on this and future projects. Then as you write, refer back to these sheets to maintain consistency and to give you ideas how this character is likely to act in a new situation. Another fun and interesting way to create and flesh out characters is to start with a character playlist to help you understand their personalities and emotions on a deeper level. Music can capture the essence of a character's mood, history, motivations, musical taste, social status, all sorts of things. And musical taste is as unique as a fingerprint. No two people have the exact taste in music. Everybody likes something different. Consider Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy. His playlist essentially defined his character, and I've heard James Gunn often starts with a playlist, capturing songs he wants to include to inspire his scriptwriting process on a scene-by-scene level. So try a character playlist. Choose songs that resonate with your character's traits, experience, and emotional journey. Listening to this playlist while writing can help you stay in tune with the character's voice and mood, making your portrayal more consistent and vivid, and that really helps to draw in your readers. So to enhance your character development, use character interviews to deep dive into their personalities, character sheets to keep track of the details, and if you're feeling really creative, try to make a playlist for your characters to explore emotion that resonates within them. These techniques will help you create well-rounded, believable characters that your audience will connect with and enjoy. What practical tips have you found in developing your characters? I'd love to hear about it. So, if no one likes your characters, perhaps it's because they're one-dimensional, lack clear motivations, or express themselves with jarring, forced dialogue. Whatever the reason is, you can turn this around by creating deeper, more complex characters that will resonate with your audience by working up backstories to show their motivations and add depth, avoid power fantasies by giving them flaws and weaknesses, and show growth, development, and change over the course of the story. You can also lay solid character foundations by building characters with character interviews, character sheets, and making character-specific playlists. Now it's your turn. Think about your current characters. Are there any you're struggling with? What about the ones you're particularly proud of? Let's chat about that in the comments. And if you're stuck suffering from writer's block, check out this video on overcoming writer's block. And if you enjoyed this, do the things, and we'll keep making videos about writing, world building, and using AI to enhance your creativity. Either way, good luck with your writing. Keep at it, keep experimenting with your characters. The more you understand them, the better your stories will become. And remember, every character has the potential to be unforgettable with the right development.